So today we're working on a 2010 F350 6.4 liter diesel. The block heater is not working. So the way I tested it is I took my 120 volt plug and I put my ohm meter across the two flat prongs, and my meter reads open. So something in the circuit is not working, either the cable or the block heater element itself. So we come under the truck here. So I'm behind the engine, looking forwards at in front of the truck, and the starter is right here. And these are the wires going to the starter, and the block heater is right up there. I got a socket on it right now. So you disconnect the plug from the block heater. There's a little retainer clip on it. A little hard to get off. Once you get that off, then the cable can unplug. So at this point what I did was I went back to the front of the truck and plugged the cable into 120 volts, came back here, and I metered 120 volts here. So that proves the cable's good, and it's actually the block heater element that is not working. So I've got the new block heater here. What I'm going to do is take my multimeter and measure the resistance while I have it out of the vehicle here. And I read about 15 ohms. So when I plug this into the vehicle and I go to my front plug-in, I should get a reading about 15 ohms from my front plug. So I've got the new block heater plugged into the cord, just hanging down by the frame rail, and just testing to make sure the circuit is good. You got 14 ohms, it should work. Get the new block heater in there and we're away. Okay, so I modified this socket to sneak it in between the starter cables here. But once I got it in there, there wasn't enough room to put anything on it. So I ended up taking the starter cables out of this support bracket here. And the cables are actually fairly flexible, so they're easy to move out of the way once they're out of this support bracket. So I got my socket on there with a universal down to an extension, and I'm going to attempt to break this block heater loose. Okay, so I got the whole block heater out. You can see them there. The new one is a Motorcraft. It's got an O-ring on it, so you won't need any thread sealant on it. But just because we like to verify, again, you got the multimeter out. The new one is about 15 ohms. The old one is open. So as you can tell, definitely made a mess. I've probably got about 15 liters of coolant in there, and it went everywhere. I checked my programmer before I pulled the block heater. It read about 65 degrees for coolant. So when it was coming out, I was just trying to stay out of the way as best I could, but it went everywhere. And the last little bit is draining out right now. So I've got everything put back together here. You can just barely see the block heater up there. When I pulled it apart, the cable went on the outside of the starter cables, but it took a very sharp 90-degree turn, and the jacket on the wires is actually ripped open because of it. So when I put it back together, I went in between the starter and the starter wires with the block heater cable. I just tie wrapped the starter cables back to the bracket there, and there's a little circle clip on the block heater cord there. Everything's away from the exhaust, plumbed in pretty good, I'd say. I'm going to fill it up with coolant and do an ohm meter, and hopefully I got 15 ohms and no leaks. Okay, so all said and done, I ended up putting about 4 gallons of gold pre-diluted antifreeze back in it, coolant. It's about 15 bucks a jug for those, so $60 in coolant, and the block heater from Ford was $90. It took me about an hour to do it all. Ran the truck while I filled up the coolant, work all the air out of the system. Probably be the next few times I run the vehicle, I'll be checking the coolant level and topping it up as all the air gets worked out of the system. Definitely the key to the job is getting those starter cables out of the way. It's unlike the 6 liters or the 6.7 liters. It is not accessible with those starter cables there. They have to be removed. The block heater comes out at a downward angle. The truck's got 280,000 kilometers on it right now. This block heater has not worked since I bought the truck at 130,000 kilometers. Alright, well, if you like this video, let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment if I missed anything. These are the sockets here that I modified to get in there. I don't think you'd have to do this. Once you get those starter cables out of the way, you shouldn't have a problem. I definitely needed it's about a 2-foot breaker bar, 1/2-inch drive breaker bar to break it loose and torque it back in there. Alright, thanks for watching.